Welcome to Forever Unbreakable. My name is William Koken. Everybody calls me Will. I've got my co-host or wife, Chelsea Koken, formerly Chelsea McGuire. Say hi, Chelsea.
Hi, everybody.
So, like we said, welcome to Forever Unbreakable. What you guys saw initially, so this is episode one. What you saw is my attempt at video editing with the logo making it move and look kind of 3D-esque. But the logo, Forever Unbreakable, is the brand name. We're going to get into the explanation of that. But you saw like an arrow or a greater than sign to the side of the logo. So that to us has a couple meanings. One, it means constantly moving forward. And the other meaning is like the mathematical equation, forever unbreakable, greater than whatever is trying to break you. So that's what we're trying to instill in our brand and business, is to be greater than whatever's trying to break us or break any individual, inspire others, and continue to move forward in life. Don't ever take the easy way out. Always just keep pushing through, work harder, and be successful at beating whatever you want to beat. So that's kind of what our logo means, or what our logo is. And that's how we created it. Huge shout out to Jessica French from Frenchy Designs for killing it on the logo. We're very, very pleased, super excited. Thank you.
Thanks, Jess.
So our business has like three pillars, we call it, or three platforms. And the business, Forever Unbreakable, is basically to provide a platform for inspiring people to inspire other people. So we're super excited to have this platform. We built it in our basement. So right now you're in the podcast studio of the basement. So it is what it is. You've got myself and my wife Chelsea doing the editing. So hopefully it all works out. Our intent isn't to edit any of the actual footage. So we're not going to crop anything down, anything like that. The only editing really is making a logo move around, watermarking it with a logo, and then flipping between the two cameras that we have set up.
I'm making sure that our lips match what we're at the audio.
Yeah, so
because
the
that's
audio,
annoying.
yeah, audio runs into a mixer board. It's a little fancier than what we probably should have, but we're learning as we go. So bear with the initial couple episodes of the learning process here. But hopefully everything makes sense, works out, looks good, sounds good. But more importantly, that the message gets across of whatever the guest that we're hosting here has done to be unbreakable. So that's what we're most excited about. So the three pillars to the business. We've got a motivational speaking section, we've got a store, and we've got the podcast. So the podcast that you're listening to right now or watching is a platform idea that came from a couple of people or their concepts and ideas of encouraging this to happen. So we're super excited to have it. What our intent is to bring on people who have unbreakable stories. So maybe they beat cancer, maybe they biked across America, maybe they did a couple Ironmans, or have done something that defines them as unbreakable. Maybe they've attempted to take their own life and then change their life around and is now motivating and educating other people. And so that's what the podcast and what we want to do is a platform with the podcast. The last part of the podcast that we want to have happen every time is ask the question, what's next? So maybe you're still going through cancer and your what's next is just to beat cancer, which is a phenomenal what's next, and it should be your what's next. Or maybe you're transitioning from stuff and you've got a new family and you want to be the best mother or father or caretaker of somebody, and that's your what's next. That's your goal. That's what you're never going to let break you. And we know that kids can be tough. I'm sure I was a tough kid to my parents. So we want, if that's your what's next, we want you to convey that and express that to the listeners. So we're super excited. I've got a what's next. Chelsea's got a what's next. We're going to tell you about those as we progress through this episode. But during this episode of the podcast, we're not really going to get too much into our unbreakable stories. I'll tell you a little bit about where we came from, a little bit about what's going on in our lives, how we met, and things like that. But we're going to save our unbreakable stories for the future. So this episode, if you're watching this, its main focus is to give you some background and context of where we came from, why we have a podcast, and what our goal is with the business brand and the podcast. So Chelsea is now going to tell you about the store section or the merchandise section. So go ahead, Chelsea.
Sure. So, store obviously pretty self-explanatory, but our idea is there'll be a website, of course, for us, foreverunbreakable.com, and a part of that will be a merch area. So, we want to have a few T-shirts out there, sweatshirt, water bottles, things like that. But a nice part that we've always had keep us going is a quote or a few words that kind of say, that tick in the back of your head and say, this is why I'm going to keep going because I'm going to prove them wrong or something like that. So just our take on it and taking some input and feedback to put those shirts out there that might spark a question of, hey, what is Forever Unbreakable? What does that mean? And then might start a conversation of, oh, this is me. This is why I'm Forever Unbreakable. And it might be something where someone sees it and they're like, yeah, that's me. And then it just kind of becomes a brand that hopefully we can launch, whether local community or larger. I mean, we've got tons of friends and acquaintances that we think really fit into this platform, and we just want to say, hey, come in and talk about why you're pretty awesome. So more to come on that, but it'll start off basic, and of course, just like any company, it'll grow.
Yeah, so another main reason why we have the store is to assist us in generating some funds to keep the podcast and the website and everything up and running. So as you know, hosting fees and all that stuff aren't free. So we're using that to kind of allow us to keep this growing more easily and more successfully, and allow us to do more interviews and get more people to share their story to a greater populace. So we're super excited to have the merchandise aspect as well, just to help us grow this podcast and business. So the last part is the motivational speaking. Over the last few years, especially, it really got ramped up after I decided that it was going to be a good idea to rock the end of an Ironman. I found some deep, dark spots during that, and had some great friends who walked many, many miles with me in the dark and kept my head in the game when I didn't even know really who I was. Started having heat exhaustion, heat stroke type symptoms. They were pouring gallons of water on my head, trying to cool me down. I had to take a half-hour break. And it started to look like me not finishing might be a real thing. And I know I said words that a lot of my friends don't hear me say. Things like, this is really, really difficult. I'm not going to make it. Some breakable type thoughts. And I really thought that there was a high potential that I might break. Unfortunately, I didn't, and I was able to finish that Ironman. We raised a bunch of money for Fourth Hua, and it was a great goal. But with that aspect of the business, since that event, I've been asked to go speak at different schools and businesses, conferences, things like that, and it's been very exciting. And I want to, in talking to Chelsea, we've decided that we want to create a platform that people can come to and advertise themselves to go out and speak in front of groups of people and share their stories to larger groups of people. So we're starting with me as a speaker, and we're going to hopefully have some additional speakers lined up and on our website soon that people can, request. And the cost for those speaking engagements could be anywhere from completely free to our travel expenses to maybe a couple dollars to, again, help continue to allow us to get more inspiring people out there inspiring others. So it's not something that's designed to make a bunch of money or anything like that. It's designed so that we can go out and help inspire other people to live a greater life and keep accomplishing things that they don't think is possible or other people don't think is possible. One of the quotes that we really love is "prove them wrong," because there's so many naysayers who say you can't do this, you can't do that. Yeah, you can, and it's simple. All you got to do is put in the hard work. So it's not a matter of can or can't. It's work hard enough and you can do it. Mm-hmm. So that's what we believe in. That's what we're trying to do, and that's why we're putting in some crazy hours trying to make this thing possible. Self-educating ourselves on how to edit and how to set up a store and do all these things. So it's super exciting, and that's where the motivational speaker aspect comes into play. So we're going to touch a little bit now on, so that was the business side of stuff. Now we're going to touch a bit on where we kind of came from and how we got to the day we met. So myself, I'm from West De Pere High School. Grew up in West De Pere with a mom, dad, brother. My brother's now married. He's got 2 kids. So it's standard life. Then my junior year of high school, I enlisted into the Wisconsin National Guard and went to basic training between my junior and senior year, and then went to my infantry MOS after my senior year of high school. So I've now spent 16 years in the military. I'm an E7. I absolutely love the Wisconsin National Guard. Can't thank the Wisconsin National Guard enough for the opportunities. Thanks to Wisconsin National Guard, I've gotten to go to Ranger School, Pathfinder, Airborne. I've gotten to compete in the Best Ranger competition. All things that wouldn't have been possible without the Wisconsin National Guard. I do want to make something clear right now so that people have a greater understanding. Because I went to Ranger School does not mean that I spent time in Ranger Regiment. The two are often misconceptions. They are two very different things. But so that people know, I am a graduate of the Army's Ranger School. I've never spent time in Ranger Regiment or deployed with Ranger Regiment or anything with the actual regiment itself. So Ranger School, though, great experience. Again, another spot where I thought I was going to break. Had a battle buddy, Willman, who was there for me when I was in my low spots. I know I was there for him when he was in his low spots, and together we managed to go straight through and graduate. So just great experience, something we'll touch on later as I get the opportunity to interview some friends that I have that have served in Ranger Regiment or have just graduated the school. We'll talk about some of those experiences and what it was like on here, and you guys will get to hear the Unbreakable stories at that time. So did all that, competed at the Best Ranger, another great experience. My partner was Jose Moreno. I can't thank him enough for the great partnership, awesome experiences. We've got some stellar stories, and at some point, I do plan to bring you on, Jose, and have you on here on the podcast and kind of talk about the competition and some other aspects of life. But it was a great experience. So moving forward, we got to where I met my wife, and that's what we'll talk about here in a bit. But I'm going to let her kind of tell you where she comes from a bit, and then we'll talk about the day we met and moving forward to how we got to this brand, Forever Unbreakable, today.
All right. So my story is really a lot shorter and simpler than Will, maybe because I'm younger, or maybe just because I don't know. But grew up a little different. No mom, dad, brother, all in the same house at one time, but split my time between a couple of families, and it was great. Definitely brought in some interesting things throughout my first part of life, but then after high school, went to college, did college, ended up with an internship with the chamber, and I was at communications and events, and that's kind of at the same time I was wrapping up a certificate in college, and I said, what do I really want to do? And ended up in the event management world. Got a job then while I was doing that internship full time for company here in Green Bay, and did that for about a year. Was offered a community event position. So now my current job, I work for On Broadway. I'm the marketing and events manager. So handle dozens of events a year, and then plenty of other opportunities through the organization that just allow me to really grow my reach in what I can learn and what I might want to go on to do later in life. So doing that still today, staying very, very busy, still working another service industry job to help support this business that Will had us create here in the basement, and obviously jumped right on board with it, of course, but not sure I saw it coming when we met just under 4 years ago. So like Will said, I met him at a wedding.
That she crashed.
By definition, I was probably a wedding crasher, but I was invited to the wedding by a guest of the wedding. So Nicole Smith asked me to
Crash the wedding.
go to this wedding. She's like, "Hey, I don't really know many people. Can you come and hang out?" And I had just gotten home from work, and I said, "I don't really feel like doing anything," but I wasn't going to do anything, so I said, "Why not?" So I am on my way there, almost on my way there, and she sends me a picture of Will and says, "By the way, there's this guy I want you to meet."
And I looked good.
He looked crazy. So he was dancing in this picture, and he looked like literally his eyes were glowing. And I said, "Oh my god!" So I had also sworn off a relationship for at least the summer. I had just gotten out of a long-term relationship, and just really didn't want anything to do with guys for a while. And
And this is 4th of July weekend, so it's midsummer. It's July 5th.
yeah, July 5th, and so I was not having it, and we though had a good time. Walked down the longest, widest hallway that I've ever been in by myself, and Will was putting on assless chaps by the time I got up to the group of people. And I thought, this is going to be ridiculous. So Nicole and I go get a drink, and Grandma happens or whatever. It was honestly kind of a blur. I think I had a drink before I went there on purpose. And next thing you know, I was his number one focus for the rest of the evening. And I thought, who is this guy? Get him away from me. Introduced me to his parents that night as mom and dad. So you can call him mom and dad. And I said, I don't know.
Which they are now, mom
No,
and dad.
yes, they are. But
man of my word, man of my word.
all around the dance floor, he had me actually have our first kiss on picture or in picture or whatever, because he snuck one. You know, you do the whole kiss me on the cheek, and he turns his head really quick, and we were in a photo booth, and bam. So that's documented, but so that's kind of cool looking back on it. But at first, I was like, what a creep. So we continue to hang out with a group of people then for the rest of the night, and he asks me for my number. And I said, I'll take your number. So I take his number. I don't call him for a couple days, but I do end up calling him. And my intent was to just say, well, at least I thought my intent was. Who knows what I really had in the back of my mind, I guess. But my intent was to just say, hey, you know, thanks for a good evening. I had fun. Nice to meet you. And he didn't let me get off the phone without asking me to go out with him. So between our busy schedules, we made a Tuesday, like the following week, work or something. And we went out that night. And we went out a week later, a week after that, and the week after that. So after, I think, 3 or 4 dates, and each time he asked me to be his girlfriend, and each time I said no. But after, I think, the 4th one it was, I said, fine. Because, of course, nonstop, just like anybody. Nonstop texting and phone calls, because I admit it, I kind of like the guys. Oh, stop. What
I would hope you would like me.
So
we're married.
No, well, yes, but I'm saying right away. So again, I mean, life was quick and fast, and we were both super busy, but we made time. And I think that's kind of what makes us get along today, because we just started off with busy schedules, but found time to get done what's important to us, what needs to get done. Yeah, here we are.
Yeah, so that was how we met. Thankfully, she crashed the wedding. I'm super thankful for that. Cody and Sharon, thanks for getting married so that we had a wedding for her to crash. But yeah, so that happened, and then we moved on to getting a dog. Our dog's name is Thrill, and that came from my nickname, Will the Thrill.
That you gave yourself.
That I did give myself, but now it's stuck, and you'll hear some stories about Will the Thrill, I'm sure, over the course of the podcast, and through some other channels and things like that. So my alter ego, or whatever you want to call it, awesome personality. So yeah, so Thrill happened. Thrill is now almost 3, and he's a Fox Red Lab, full of energy.
Terror.
We love him. He's a office dog.
My office
or he thinks he's on payroll anyways.
My payroll.
But so that happened, and then Chelsea knew that we actually bought this house was the next big step. So we bought the house.
We did it backwards: dog, house,
yeah,
marriage. Usually it's marriage,
today.
house, dog, or
so. And it was, we love our house. And then came the idea of, I'm gonna do Iron Man and Ruck It, which was a bar time idea.
Yep, it
So
was.
got talked into that, thanks to guys like Jason Braun. Love you and hate you sometimes at the same time. We'll get more into Jason because that's part of the reason why I'm doing a world record. But anyways, so decide that I'm going to ruck Iron Man. So do the swim, 2.4 mile swim, then bike the 112 miles of the bike ride, and then do the 26.2 mile marathon, with a 35-ish pound pack on. But my bigger goal that day that only one or two people knew about outside of my parents and Chelsea's mom was that I was going to ask her to marry me at the finish line, provided that I could get there. So that was my bigger motivation to remain unbreakable during the marathon part of it. So I knew I could swim, bike, and do the run because I'd already done an Ironman. So I had some confidence, but I didn't know if it was possible to ruck the marathon part. So I messaged Fireman Rob. If you don't know who Fireman Rob is, Google him. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever you want to use. He's out there. He's one of the most inspirational people that I've ever met. Thank you, Fireman Rob, for kind of showing me the way that it was possible. Rob's done, I don't even know how many Ironmans. He's a Guinness World Record for half Ironman, for most half Ironmans in a year. Does them all in full fire gear with the tank. So him doing that showed me I can carry a 35-pound pack with a pair of boots on. It's not going to be that hard. What I didn't realize was that when I got off the bike, I was exhausted. I was excited to get out, knock out this marathon, and ask the love of my life to marry me. So I was excited. So excited that I took all my bike stuff, and instead of putting it into the bike bag, I decided to pack it into my rucksack. So now my ruck is no longer 35 pounds. It's 35 pounds plus bike equipment. So that's shoes, the helmet, all that stuff. Just jammed it right in there, put it on my back.
I knew that.
Yeah, put it on my back, and it was go time. So I got out on there, and I'm cruising along, and get to about mile 18, and I start talking to my boy Sodi. And
Soda's not there.
Sodi's not there. Sodi's my best friend. He's off doing some super high-speed stuff. Love him to death. I can't wait to have him on the podcast. But he's an inspiration to me. Been my best friend since high school. So I'm talking to Sodi. Talking to my best friend who's not there. And Jason's walking with me, and Jason's like, I don't know what you're doing, bro. Don't have a clue as to what's going on because you're talking to somebody who's not here. So Jason looks at me, and he's like, dude, you got to take a break. Like, we got to get some water on you. So we get to the next water point, and I'm weaving all over the road. I'm starting to hallucinate and going into a really, really dark spot where I don't think making Ironman is going to be possible. So Jason gets me to the water point, starts pouring a gallon of water on my head, trying to get me to come back around. And we were at that water point for like 15 minutes. It's the longest mile during a race of my life. And I'm hoping that remains that way because I can't afford a mile like that here in like 40-ish days when I make the Guinness World Record attempt. But it was one of the most humbling moments of my life where I thought to myself, you might break right now. You need to get your mind wrapped around the fact that you can't break. There's a lot of people that are depending on you to get to the finish as an inspirational piece.
Because you also did this as a fundraiser for Fourth Hula.
So we were able to raise a bunch of money, and a lot of people are, I'm going to give you X at the start. You finish it, I'm going to double it. So there's a lot of dependency, the inspirational piece, financial piece to help more veterans, and potentially one of the biggest pieces for me, or the biggest piece for me, not even potentially, is the fact that I get to ask my girlfriend to be my wife. So I'm super I got to finish this thing. I've got to grind out these last 8 miles. This is not going to be easy. And it's dark. And I ended up getting surrounded by all my friends. Everybody came, surrounded me, and walked me all the way to the lights of the finish line where I could see the finish. And from there, I could do it. So part of being unbreakable is having that group of people, that support system that do believe in you. And the other part of the inspirational piece is all of the naysayers that say you can't do it. It's impossible. Nobody's ever rucked it before. To my knowledge, when I rucked the Ironman, I was the first person to do it. I don't know if that's a fact, but in my research, I couldn't find anybody who had done it, so I didn't have anybody to ask. And there was a bunch of people who told me, this isn't possible. Don't be stupid. That's stupid. It's not possible. And I was like, I'm a normal guy, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to find a way to do it. And it's the same thing with this world record attempt, is you just got to go out and push and prove them wrong. And that's one of our favorite quotes is prove them wrong. And so got to the finish line. I was dazed and confused. They put the medal on you and they shuttle you around and get your picture taken and all this stuff. And I'm like, I need to go grab this ring from my buddy Cody and I need to get down on a knee quick and ask my wife to marry, or ask my girlfriend to become my wife. And I'm going to let Chelsea tell how this part goes because she tells it a little bit better than I do.
So again, he said one or two people knew besides our parents, and that's not true. Basically, everybody somehow knew or started to figure this out at some point, and I didn't really catch on. So he is getting done, and I'm super proud of him, super excited, but I know I'm going to get to go back to the hotel with him and hang out and see him every day for the next couple weeks. But everyone else that came down, we had a couple dozen people probably there for you at the finish line. I knew that they came down just to see Will finish. So I kind of was off watching these other people get wrapped up in the little metal sheet things, the little, whatever they're called, thermal things, like hot dogs, and kind of off to the side. And Will's finishing and everyone's congratulating him or whatever. And then he's like, hey, are you going to give me a hug? I'm like, sure. Are you going to? Yeah. Again, very supportive, very happy for him, but it's just the way that I am. And I'm like, yeah, I'll give you a hug. So I walk over, give him a hug, and next thing you know, everybody kind of spreads out. And he gets down on one knee as I'm going to give him a hug. And as he's getting down on one knee, of course, it's not super graceful by any means because he's sore. So he gets down on one knee and, a lot of bit surprised. But of course, I'm going to say yes. I'm just kind of gathering myself. I'm a bit of a reserved person, outgoing at times. What do they call it? An extroverted introvert or something. And I say yes, and I'm not really saying yes.
Yeah, you hadn't said yes
I
yet.
hadn't said yes, and he's like, you need to say yes.
Yeah, I was like, you need to give me
answer.
an
That's
answer.
What you said. You need to give me an answer.
Because I can't stay on a knee any longer. I'm about to cramp up.
Yeah, so I said yes. And so then he's like, and you need to help me up. So I help him up and blah, blah, blah. And then the rest is great. And it's a big party. And yeah, so that's how that happened. So that's a cool memory. A lot of fun.
Yeah, I absolutely love that memory. It was an emotional roller coaster of a day. And it ended with the highest of highs, having Chelsea say yes to becoming my wife, and now us having gotten married. And for all of the people who say life changes and all this stuff, we don't see that. For us, it's been awesome. Yeah, I couldn't be happier. I married my best friend, and I'm super thankful that that's how it's worked out for me thus far. So the last couple of pieces that we're gonna touch on today, with getting here to this brand and this business. One is our road to health. So Chelsea and I Chelsea's been through a knee surgery before, and the recovery process to that. I've had 5 knee surgeries, and I've had a ton of work done to my shoulder, and the recovery process. At one point, I didn't think I would ever throw a football again, or be successful, in the physical capacity that I once was. And now we've tested out some diet stuff. It's working great for us. We're having some much better success, and we'll get more into that type of stuff in the future. But it's been super good for me. It's been a super fun, super difficult learning process for a lot of it. Just because nobody wants to put down the potato chips. Gotta love potato chips.
Yep. Nobody thinks they want to have spaghetti squash. They just want to have regular spaghetti.
Yeah.
But here we are, and yeah, this is actually pretty recent, but we've of course come across, and you read so many things about a healthy diet, and you don't realize the changes that it can really make for you. So that's been very nice to aid in the daily recovery process and just the success that we can have. And Will does way more races than I do, but I do enjoy getting out there, and it just makes everything better.
So now we're going to talk about the what's next. First, Chelsea's next for sure, and maybe she's going to say something bigger, but I know her next right now is to do the Cellcom half marathon. And you're going to state the time right now that you want to do it in under.
Under 2:15.
So, yeah, her goal is to do it under 2:15.
That's my public goal.
Yeah, what was your last run?
2:26. But
No.
again, to that point of my last run.
Yeah, so her last half marathon was 2:26, but the last run you did was what, 9 miles?
7-ish.
Okay, and what was your pace?
Shoot, I don't remember. 8:30.
Yeah, so well under. What was your longest run this year in training up?
9.
Yeah, 9 miles. And what did you do that pace at?
I don't remember.
It was under 9 minutes a mile. I remember that. So I think that she's going to go under 2:05.
But we'll see. So my public goal is 2:15. I usually have public goals and private goals, but that's a mental thing, so I'm going to leave that to me.
Yeah, so that is her what's next right now. My what's next is an attempt at breaking a Guinness World Record. This started kind of after a couple of cocktails, talking about heaviest packs we've carried. My buddy Jason carried for the 20 and 22 mile Veteran Suicide Awareness March. It was 22. The VA changed its statistic a couple of years ago. So, through the charity that I am now the acting president of, created a walk, and now it's the 20 mile Veteran Suicide Awareness March. It grew from its inception of 70-ish participants and about $11,000 to last year raised right around $100,000, and we had about 1,000 participants. And that's been over 5 years. So it's grown awesome. We've been able to help thousands and thousands of veterans, and for that I'm super blessed and thankful. It's been an amazing journey, and we'll definitely talk more about the charity organization in future episodes. But drinking with Jason, we were talking about heaviest packs, distance traveled, all this stuff. And we decided to Google heaviest pack carried for a marathon. And that turned up with like a 60-pound Guinness World Record. And we clicked on it to see what the time was. And on the sidebar, it had all these other world records. It had fastest marathon, 20-pound, 40-pound, 60-pound that we were on, 80-pound and 100-pound fastest marathons. And so we started clicking on them. We started with the easiest and just worked our way down. And we got to the 100-pound marathon, and we were both like, that might be doable. So we decided to put 100 pounds on. We went, and I mean, when I say we went like 3 miles, it might have been 2.5. Within the first 200 meters, we were like, holy, what the fuck did we get into? Like, this is stupid. And we grinded it out a little bit. Jason and I just worked it out together. We got up to like an 8 to 10 miler, and we were like beat down. It was freezing cold out. It's Wisconsin. We're training in the wintertime. Because this was November of 2016 that we looked at it. So we're talking probably January or February that we're out doing this. We're at like the 10 miler, and it just beat us up. And I contact the Cellcom Marathon around February and ask them if they can extend the race. So the world record at the time was like 7.5 hours. It was like a 17-minute a mile pace, something that we both thought was doable. Contacted Cellcom, they couldn't keep the race open. And I was like, well, that means I gotta beat it in 7 hours, because that's how longer the race will stay open. And I was like, it's a world record for a reason. You don't go beat a world record by 30 minutes. And so in April, a month before Cellcom, somebody set the world record at 6 hours, 47 minutes, and 3 seconds. And Mark Jenner out of
United Kingdom or Romania, I think.
Yeah, Romania is where he's from. He did it in England. And so seeing that record, I knew that I wasn't in a physical condition at Cellcom. Spent the last year working on getting the packet approved, making sure the Cellcom Green Bay Marathon was a certifiable race by Guinness, and going back and forth with the Guinness World Records, Cellcom, and trying to figure out myself if I could do it, if I could remain unbreakable, and do this. So trained, been putting in some miles. I've had some great training runs and training partners, and conversations with people from all walks of life and different communities. And I've generally figured out what I need to do to break the world record. So we went and put it to the test on a really, really tough course 2-3 weeks ago. The Dick Lighty half marathon, 13.1 miles. And I was able to, the elevation on the Dick Lighty is like 200 feet-ish more than all of the Cellcom's 26 miles. So Cellcom's a pretty flat course. One of the reasons why I chose it, just to help myself out a little bit with trying to be able to produce more speed, longevity over the course to essentially assist me in breaking the world record. So at the Dick Lighty, I was able to roll 2 minutes and 6 seconds a mile faster than the world record. Felt really, really strong at the end with a ton left in the tank. So I think that I have a really, really good chance to break this record. And through this process, tons and tons of people have been reaching out and asking me to start something like a podcast and brand it and create something bigger. And so to this date, and I'm doing the Guinness World Record to raise money for Fourth Hua so that we can help veterans. And to this date, everything that I've done in this aspect has always been back to Hua, back to Hua, back to Hua. So now we, as in Chelsea and I, are going to try and create something where we're able to help more than just veterans. So this podcast isn't going to be veteran centric or just about veterans. We're going to reach out and get all walks of life. We're excited to get ultra marathoners on, guys who have run 100 plus miles, so have more of the physical fitness aspect. We're excited to get cancer survivors on, people who have tried to take their lives, people who have had rough childhoods, abuse or abusiveness, the bullying stuff, and their way of remaining unbreakable. So anybody who's got an unbreakable story, as soon as we get all the website stuff up, you'll be able to go on. The website's foreverunbreakable.com. We were able to secure the domain name, which is one of the reasons why, another reason why we love this brand so much is the fact that we can actually have the .com to it as well. So we're super excited to be able to allow people to apply to come onto the podcast, to share their story in writing as well, so that we can put that up on there. Or if they're interested in becoming an inspirational speaker, going through that process and getting them put out there so that they're publicly accessible on a platform that people can go to hire guest speakers for specific categories if that's what they want them to speak in. So we're super excited about everything that we've got going on with the brand. Do you have anything else, Chelsea?
No, I think per usual you covered it pretty well, at least for now. Like you said, we'll
And not just
we'll
me,
be
I
on
think
here.
we covered it pretty well. So
Yeah. So we'll be on. I'll be. You'll be on all the time. I'll be on again. We'll talk. We'll talk more about it. But hopefully, it's March now, March 2018, or no, April
yeah,
2018.
we're in April. We're in April.
April. We started this in March 2018, and hopefully, we'll see where we're at a year from now, 3 years, 5 years, 8 years. So
Yeah, the idea we've been working on since February, I think, and we didn't start purchasing stuff and turning it into a reality until March. So it's been a work in progress. Early March, we started to make some of the serious purchases that we needed to, and then we spent a good couple weeks learning how to edit, doing some practice podcasts down here, some interesting stories. But they're to come in the future. So we're excited. We're not sure yet onto the regularity of how we're going to publish these, as we want to get new, fresh, and exciting stories. But we do have some lined up. So we're super excited. If you're interested, please go on and apply. Or if you have questions, send them to us. We plan to answer some questions early on in the podcasts for all the podcasts. And like we said, another exciting part is the what's next. So we're excited to have people make goals and plans, stick to them. So yeah, enjoy your day and always remain unbreakable. Thanks for tuning in.
bye.
Have a good day.